get in as close as you feel comfortable with so you can hear everything.
Just like this? Like.
Well, not that close. Okay, good. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. By way of introduction, my name is Al Watson. I am the District Ranger here for the Kern River Ranger District. I just want to thank you all for being here. So part of public land is people get to show their passion of why it's important to them. But the other part of public land in meetings like this is we have the opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. And the same token, give people the opportunity to just say, hey, this is why I like Miracle Hot Springs. This is why it's important to me. Maybe some concerns of how to move forward, or maybe some concerns of maybe it shouldn't move forward. And that's what this forum's about. And in a minute, I'm gonna introduce, or have my staff introduce themselves. And then I'll kind of go into what we hope to accomplish by this meeting. And then, but realize it's gonna be lots of Q&A from you and hopefully answers from us. But the idea is we want to have an open, frank, transparent conversation with you so that you are hearing the same thing and we're not relying on Facebook or friends or whatever to give you what the story is. So I appreciate you all being here, and so I want to introduce my staff. So to my left.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruby Gonzalez. I'm the river manager here. I just started a little bit ago, so I'm getting up to speed with everything, but I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say.
Hi, Ruby.
Good morning, my name is Hitchcock. I'm the Deputy District Ranger. So I have a portfolio of things that I cover. Rec is one, so areas like this fall under me and Ranger Watson. We put this meeting together, and one of the things that we do is kind of start meetings off with safety. So as you may have noticed, we're in a no cell phone service. Ruby here has a radio, so if anything happens, she'll be our point of contact with the outside world. And just in case something horrible were to happen, do we have any search and rescue or any medical person that wants to identify themselves so that we know who to turn to?
I've saved six people out of this river. I can do it.
Okay. So you feel qualified for
I do.
CPR or anything? Okay, so if there's medical emergency, guy in the orange shirt, let him clear the way. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Deputy Hitchcock.
Okay, good deal. So, like I said, how we would like to have this conversation is we're going to start off about maybe some history, not history back in the prehistory or even the 1930s, but what has brought us all together here. And that's just about Miracle, a small bit about some background, and then what happened when the tubs were actually destroyed. And then Hitch will talk about the why, because a lot of people are saying, how did this happen? Who had authority? And what's the way forward? So that's part of the discussion we're going to have. So I'll just start that. Realize, you know, when I've had conversations, if people are utilizing the tubs for any time, they have probably seen me there, because I have gone to the tubs on many, many occasions just to ask people what their thoughts were of the tubs. It has been a complex area to actually manage and oversee for as long as the Forest Service has been here. Much longer than I've been here, much longer than a lot of people in this group, not everybody. But with that being said, I just need people to understand the context that it's not, there's no black and white answer when it comes to Miracle Hot Springs. It's complex. We have people that have voiced to both Hitch and I, we're glad they're gone. That place was a problem from the very beginning. And then we have other people that say this was a tragedy of the highest level, that we have lost this natural resource. But that's the way things are when it comes to management of public lands, is people have different opinions of how things should be managed. But that's the beauty of it, is you all here are representing, giving your voice of what you feel like. So be thinking, one, is we will hope to answer a lot of your questions, but we're also looking from solutions from you all. Because at the next, 20 minutes or so, we're going to pose a number of the challenges that we have faced here. And then some of those you may not even be aware of, whether it's talking about fatalities or just a nefarious activity that's happened. But at the same time, there may be solutions out here that you all have. Okay? Fair enough? All right. So first off, let's talk a bit about the history. So we have done a lot of research of this area. Prehistory, Native Americans have used this for eons, long before there was actually European settlers in this area. Hot springs are part of human society. You know, and so that's why it brings up a lot of passion. People utilize hot springs for a variety of reasons. Some of them just to relax. Other people, they view the hot springs in ways to be able to cure ailments that they have. I can name 20, 30 people who have said, I go to the hot springs because when I sit in there, I come out, I feel so much better. I do not have to have prescription medication because of the hot springs. I've heard that left and right. So that's a positive. Other positives that we found is that, so those that don't know, we started the Hot Springs Angels that were helping us take care of this. Now they were on a volunteer agreement to help to be able to not manage, but clean some of the tubs. I consider that a partnership and also a success. So fast forward from prehistory to now, so folks that have been in the valley for 20 years or so, there's been a bit of an undulation of things, how they've been managed or things have been taken care of. For years, the hot springs were just destroyed. People would put them in, they would be destroyed. People would put them in, they would be destroyed. You know, that was predecessors to me. I even took that same stance in 2013 when I was first a district ranger here, of knocking out the hot tubs because they're not built. The Forest Service is insane. Go build hot tubs. You know, it's not, they're illegal if you're building something without the Forest Service giving someone the permission to be able to do that. So then I took a different tact, simply because I don't have staff to be able to knock out hot tubs every 2 weeks. The second is, it was creating an environmental hazard. Concrete is one of the worst things for aquatic organisms. And so I made a decision to be able to just utilize what had been built there and try to be able to at least provide oversight what was there, instead of saying break them out every 2 weeks, instead of allowing concrete when people are building the tubs to go into the river. So there was a couple of different reasons of why I made that decision, and one of them was simply just to be able, we had to change tack. It wasn't possible for me and my staff to be able to you know, manage what was happening there. All right? Okay, so one last thing, and so October rolls around. So for years now, people have been utilizing it. It's become more and more popular. So Instagram, you have people putting them on Instagram, and so what was maybe 20 people a day was now turning to hundreds of people a day. And when you start putting more and more people into an area, you start having, at times, more and more problems. And so I get it. That's not the large percentage of people. A lot of people loved Miracle. They took care of Miracle. But if it's 10 people and one person doesn't take care of it, you can kind of deal with that. If it's 1,000 people and 100 people aren't taking care of it, then that becomes a magnitude, a different type of problems to solve. And that's kind of where we're at today. So October rolls around and we had a fatality, and then law enforcement took action. And so I'm going to turn it over to Hitchcock. So he's going to talk about the why. A lot of people have questions of what happened, what was the series of events that led to the destruction of the hot springs. So before I get to that, any questions up to this point? We doing good as far as rolling out? Yes.
You had mentioned concrete being so bad for the environment. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm not an aquatics biologist, but concrete in itself, so it gets into aquatic, or whether it's gills and fish, and it actually, or any type of aquatic, because of what concrete is. And it can actually have a very negative impact. Yes, sir.
If we were going to rebuild it, would we get like a permit from the county?
We will get there.
Okay.
That's the future, so we're gonna get, we're kind of moving chronologically.
If there was a problem for the concrete, you could find a material that was more appropriate
Yeah,
and more friendly to the environment and put it in the bid specification.
yep, I like that.
And then submit the plan.
So
And
put a
that's how
pin
you
in that
build
and
it.
we'll revisit that, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on its proximity, is Remington next to be destroyed?
So we are gonna answer that question as well, so, but if we don't answer it, throw a little rock at me, answer my question. No, we'll get to it. Yes.
Is the old concrete gonna be hauled out of there?
So it has been. Yep.
And you were mentioning how this was a sacred native place long before any of us were here. And I was wondering if the ancient bedrock mortars that were within the hot springs were destroyed in the process.
Yeah. So
Isn't that highly
to the best of my
illegal?
knowledge, there was no bedrock mortars in
There
that.
There was.
absolutely
I have it
was.
documented.
Only the concrete was removed.
Okay.
There was no
We'll
damage
take a
that was
look when
done to
we go
the
back there and
existing
see if
bedrock.
it's there.
Yeah, we're gonna go check. for
Okay. All right. Good enough. Yes, sir.
You mentioned people told you they were glad they're gone.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, okay. So that's fair enough. There were people in our community that felt like this was becoming a magnet for stuff that was happening. People would park their vehicles here and it would get broken into. Sexual assaults at the hot springs. Drug use that led to some interactions with people that just wasn't, it was moving away from being a family oriented type environment to one in certain time periods of the day that was actually what some people would consider dangerous.
I'm asking more like, you know, of the interactions you've had, is this like 1 out of 100 who felt like they should be gone? 2 out of 100? 50-50?
50-50. 50-50 of people are saying glad it's gone. And remember,
is this,
our group here is going to be probably people that want it back.
and
right?
is this
I mean,
over? Is this personal interactions? Is this email, phone calls?
Mostly emails, phone calls, conversations.
How many times a day do you guys have to show up here?
So it varies. So we don't have to.
I remember I moved here a couple years ago, and I would go like daily to the hot springs, and somebody would come every day and just check,
Yeah.
smile, say hello.
Yeah, in the summertime, and typically when it's busy, you'll have a couple of Forest Service people. A lot of it because we have glass band and that type of thing, but just to have a presence. Okay, lots of more opportunity for questions, but turn it over to Hitchcock.
Hello. Hi,
Good morning.
So one of the issues that we had here is, as the ranger said, you know, if you go back 5-10 years ago, there was not as much use. It was a bit of a hidden gem, a kept secret. But COVID got people who couldn't go other places to get out into nature more. So I think our district saw about a 300% increase over those 2 years we were in a pandemic of visitation. But also that kept up even after COVID. And then now you throw in social media, and you know, in our discussions with the Hot Springs Angels, even they noticed that there was just a massive increase of visitation. And with more people, sometimes come more problems. It's a very accessible place, unlike Remington, where there's a bit of a hike to get down to it and a heck of a hike up and maybe slippery terrain. This is a very accessible place. So a lot of people, if it was going to be their first jaunt out, this is where they came. And so just over this past year, peeping to the summer season, there have been several events, according to law enforcement, drug use, vagrancy, problems that the ranger said that people in the local community who maybe used to come here stopped coming here because there would be problems in this area. They didn't feel safe here. And definitely at night, there got to be issues. So we had a few fatalities in the area, upwards of 4. And one of those was a fatality that law enforcement said was in the tub. The person had been there for hours. There was blood, there was bodily fluid. And so, according to law enforcement, the fluid starts at one tub, and since they're all connected, it flows down to other tubs. And in their opinion, it needed to be drained. According to public health officers, it needed probably about 2 weeks of remaining dry sunlight so that any pathogens in the water could be removed. So now we have a situation where we need people to not be in the tubs for some period of time. Law enforcement put up crime scene tape, and within 24 hours they come back, and the tubs that they had drained had already been rebuilt with sandbags. They've already been, all the plugs have been replaced. They're already filled up. Later that week when I came, the tub that I've been told is the one that the body was found in, there's a group of 4 Hispanic women in there soaking in that tub. And when law enforcement drained it that morning, you can literally see blood in the bottom of the tub because it's on the side of the walls, it sits in. So I had 4 visitors here who think that this is a safe place to come, and they're sitting in a pool of basically someone else's bodily fluids. It's very warm, so kind of petri dish. Sure.
No, when you're talking right now about different things, is this the recent incident?
Yes, October 8th-ish.
Okay. October 17th?
They were
Was it
taken out on the 10th.
We're taking
on 20th.
October 20th.
No,
Okay.
I'm
Right,
talking
17th.
about when the man passed away on the 17th.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? We need to talk.
She was here.
Because the man was only in there for 30 minutes and he was so tired. I'm an eyewitness and there's a lot of, I tried to call the police, no one has called me to get details. I don't have details. And there's some information that obviously that we are giving information out.
So there was
He
not a
there,
body.
he was in the body taken, in the body taken.
Okay.
Was there blood in the water?
There was no blood in the water. There
Was
was
he
one
bleeding?
drip of blood on his nose and scratches on his back. No blood anywhere. So I'm just really confused.
How long did it take law enforcement to get to you by the time they came to get
Law
me?
enforcement's never spoken to me about
Did,
it.
when they came out to get the body,
The fire department came.
the fire department came?
Thank you for the info.
Yep,
Yes.
and we will want to talk to you after this.
Okay.
Details are
Yep.
critical. I wish law enforcement was here so
Nobody
we could
called
be
me
on
to
that
get any
same page.
information.
Okay.
And I
That'd be
called
perfect, so then
many
Mr.
people. No
Hitchcock
one
wouldn't have to
my
talk,
call.
but
Nobody.
I have a question for you, Terry.
That's why I'm here. I traveled
to
for
their
hours to get here.
investigation. I
Okay.
mean, that's
Okay.
firsthand.
Yeah.
So we'll open it up in a second. So that was the statement of law enforcement, is that the tubs needed to be drained. They presented a public health and safety issue, and that people were not respecting the crime scene closure. So what were we going to do? We were going to need to keep the tubs dry. And since the plugs were being replaced, they wanted to remove some of the walls to make that happen. Comedy Bears, miscommunication. We are where we are now. And so we're going to try to think about how to move.
Over a bunch of crap right
Yeah, was there a sign put up or just a piece
Yes,
of
there was
tape?
caution tape.
Who's responsible
At the
for
top.
doing this? That's
At the
what we
bottom.
want to know. We
And
want to
there
know
were
who's
signs.
responsible.
Can we wait for the process, please? Because he's still talking, and then afterwards, there's gonna be questions, so let's be quiet.
Yeah.
Did you guys actually put up signs that said that the water was, not good to sit in at the time? I know you put up the crime scene tape because I saw it.
That day?
What day?
The day that the man was found with the blood. Were you here that day? So he doesn't know,
He doesn't know.
because law enforcement
So
did
I
it.
came down here and I saw the crime scene tape, but I didn't see any signs posted that the water was unsafe to sit in or to be in. There was nothing given to the public to say that it was unsafe. There was only crime scene tape, and then a few days later it was torn down. And
So this is all hearsay. Can we get to the next issue?
Yeah, and we will. So I want to talk to you as well after this. So as you probably surmised, we do not have law enforcement here.
Terrible.
And that's for a variety of reasons. But please, before we get to questions, let's answer some of the questions that people had first, and then you will have an opportunity to ask questions.
So this is indicative of some of the problems that we face. Is we have crime scene tape up, but people want to see more signage. They want to see a more presence, but we don't have the resources to ensure that it is operated in like a safe manner, like a regular recreation site.
5 seconds, write it down.
Those poor women that were in the hot springs.
And
Hi, Scott Toland. So we keep saying law enforcement, law enforcement. My questions are, which agency is this law enforcement we're talking about? Who destroyed the tubs? Who swung the hammer? Who is their supervisor? Who gave the order to destroy the tubs? Was there a break in the chain of command? Was this just some rogue cops out here going, screw this, we're going to take care of this? Or was, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm trying to get to, like, who is this law enforcement? Like, we were thinking, oh, the Rangers did
What were
this.
their names?
You're saying this is not your department. Could you fill in some of those
I
gaps,
think
please?
he's really trying to get to that point to answer these questions.
Yeah.
So if you're asking about a structural thing of how we're laid out, an analogy I can give is if you imagine Kern County Recreation Department manages your recreation opportunities, but then there's also a Kern County Sheriff. That's law enforcement. Those two work hand in hand. The Forest Service is kind of set up in a similar way if you want to think about it. We have a law enforcement side. They are their own self-contained unit, and we have a management side. That is us. We are separated for a lot of different reasons that are bureaucratic that don't matter here. So we do try to communicate. We are co-located. We do work for the same agency. Our uniforms are slightly different, but that's neither here nor there. And so law enforcement needs to operate with a certain amount of autonomy. We try to communicate. We try to get on one page. We try to establish what are our hopes and goals for the lands that we manage. But ultimately, law enforcement works with us. They don't answer to me. So that is kind of a problem that we have, I guess, that you were pointing out. As far as, I mean, I don't know that we want to get into the finger pointing blame game. This is an action
About
that took place on
accountability.
four
Well,
certain
somebody's
lands.
Yeah, no, we need to know that the structure is intact and was followed, because if it wasn't, that's a problem. It's like, so you're saying, I'm asking, that within the Forest Service you have two sides, kind of separated by like some kind of a firewall with a conduit in between. So the actions taken with the tubs were on the law enforcement side. They were not driven from your side, correct?
Law enforcement had a crime scene. They have authority to take action there. We had a conversation about what had happened this past season. We'd even tried to loop in the Hot Springs Angels because we knew that this past summer was not going well. And so law enforcement was trying to work for public health and safety to drain the tubs. And this is where we've ended up.
Is your
Right.
side okay?
But it's like, who made the call inside law enforcement? Was that somebody with boots on the ground, or was that a supervisor? And how does that chain of command in terms of policy work? How is it supposed to work? And did it work as the way it was intended?
I can help out with that.
Thank you.
So remember, law enforcement, they have the ability to make a determination on their own about health and safety. That's their job. They don't have to come to Hitchcock and I and say, hey, we want to do this. We're going to, they can make that, and they do that every day. That's part of their job as a law enforcement officer. That's what they have training on. They made the determination on their own. Although you may want to ask me why they made that determination, I don't have that answer for you. But what I can say is they made the determination to remove the tubs, in their opinion, because they felt like it was a hazard because of the biohazard that was there. Now you're repeating it. I get that. You as well. With a great sign.
So law enforcement asked you to destroy the tubs, correct?
Negative. Law enforcement.
They didn't. That was our question.
Yes, law
Who made
enforcement
the
did.
order?
They made the determination and did it on their own.
Which one?
I got a question. I just wondered, was law enforcement aware of our agreement with Hot Springs Angels and that we have the capacity to come in right away and drain and pressure wash the tubs right after
Yeah,
this
they're
happened?
totally
You
managed.
could have called us and said there is an emergency. We would have been right here. We would have even posted volunteers there to keep people out until we got things straightened out.
So that's a fair question, but remember, law enforcement are acting upon their own training. And so it's almost like the lines are being blurred for what you're used to dealing with and what law enforcement does to be able to respond in their mind is something that needs immediate action.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. Were they aware of our agreement? Did they know that we had the capacity to come in
Probably
and
not.
clean it up?
Probably not.
Okay, so there is a failure of communication, I think, between you and law enforcement, because 6 months prior to this happening, we believe law enforcement went in there and they knocked out one of the tubs, they damaged the tubs, and I think you were aware of that. And we tried to get to the bottom of it. Nobody was copped to who did it, and we never asked you guys if we could fix it, but somebody went in there and fixed it overnight, and it was done, and that was the last we heard about it. We didn't get complaints from you about it being fixed, and we didn't hear anything else.
Okay.
I really assumed that you would have talked to law enforcement and let them know we had an agreement that they shouldn't violate. That's why I made a comment to you that if I was you, I'd be really pissed.
Okay. So that's fair. A lot of questions. I'm going to say one point, and then I'm going to go from this young lady that's been raising her hands insistently. Remember, and this is important, the tubs were not legally sanctioned by the Forest Service. They weren't. You can't just go build whatever you want on National Forest System lands. So because of that,
But you
There-
can go destroy it.
well, they have that. They made that determination. But that's an important point when you talk about law enforcement because there's regulations and stuff that's out there, and they're going to say it wasn't built legally, so we have the ability. There's no legal action anybody can take towards law enforcement because they'll just say they weren't legally built in the first place.
Well, I got a question.
So wait a second. So you all are coming?
Or after they
Yeah. Question.
That's what I mean. Se fueron para ver, sí.
So
Al,
like
can you
Hitchcock-
repeat the question? We cannot hear her whatsoever.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. Let us all know what the question.
I just wanted to know, the law enforcement that was here were in the black jackets and the white trucks, and I believe that's the forest rangers. It's to do with the forest rangers, it's not the sheriff's department that we're talking about. It's the law enforcement through the forest service, right?
That's right.
Okay, so it's a different thing. I think you guys are thinking it's regular law enforcement. I don't
No.
think it is. Okay. That's why I wanted to know who gave the order and who did that kind of stuff. Because it had to be told by somebody
Yep.
to do it. And I just think that, it's done out of anger. It's more angry that it's they put up. And who was the crew that they brought in? That's my other question. Who was the crew that they heard it was Cal Fire that they brought in?
Yeah.
Those are the questions.
Okay, I'll answer the questions, and we're going to come around. So get ready with your questions. So it was already answered. So it was Forest Service law enforcement that made the determination. They did utilize fire crews to be able to knock out the tubs. They asked for help, and that's what Hitchcock was saying. Hey, there was some mixed communication between fire, Hitchcock and I, and law enforcement. So they made the determination to knock it out, health and safety. They asked for fire crews to help out. Fire crews are like, okay, we'll do it. They knocked it out. And then we're now in this place where we're trying to figure out a path forward. Did that answer your question? Okay, next.
My mind was quick. So
We'll come back.
I'll come back.
Yes, question here.
Yeah, well, it's more kind
And
of
loud
a
for
comment.
everybody here.
More kind of a comment. My name's William Savant.
Louder, please.
Vegas
Louder.
in order to enjoy these hot springs.
That's his next volume.
All the recreation that we provide. One of the reasons for that is because it helped my body from the wounds I got in Vietnam. Now I don't have that. You know, it was really hit me hard because I've relied on this and these beautiful people that come here, families, people came from all over the world, all over California, even you all knew this. You know, so it was heartbreaking that happened. And my body's been hurting a lot worse because of that. So, take that into account, but it's for health as well. So these seniors that need this kind of thing, okay? It's really gonna help them for 4 years.
So William was basically saying, retired veteran, he relies on the tubs for his own health ailments, and that for them being removed has had a negative impact. Okay. Next. Hal.
Okay, well, we know Jay Martin, the law enforcement officer that I believe spearheaded this. We have documentation that he's made comments that he liked nothing more than the jackhammer off the tubs, and he's been saying that for 18 months prior to this accident happening. And Brian here, who's the camp post at Phobos, he told me he kind of overheard a conversation between law enforcement officers at Vaughn's parking lot that they were plotting to do this.
Okay. All right. So what Hal said for everybody is that, hey, there's law enforcement. It basically had maybe an agenda. The allegation is an agenda to be able to knock out the tubs. And so my response to that is remember, we will hear what you have to say, but those types of questions and concerns can go to Patrol Captain Todd Bonds. If you have allegations with videos or whatever, that you need to go to the supervisor of those law enforcement. I mean, I can carry the message, but they don't work for me.
What's
Todd
his
Bond.
phone number?
All right, so
I got his phone number.
who's gonna guarantee that you're not gonna do this to Remington? We'd like something in writing, or
Nobody.
something verbally, that we all know it's not gonna happen to Remington.
That's a good question, and I do not have an answer to that.
Okay.
Zach,
I think this is
real loud.
I just have a quick comment.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys coming out here and suffering the abuse that is being heaped upon you. But it does disappoint me a little bit that the people responsible, the law enforcement side, aren't here.
Why aren't they
You
here?
guys just
Why aren't
stand
they
here
here?
and go, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Be accountable.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I want to say thank you.
We're here for, we hope you understand, is that there is a black and white to this. The law enforcement, this is an obvious question. They're not supposed to be here. It's like a marijuana grow. It's as if someone built a house right where you're standing. It's an improvement on public land that is not supposed to be there. From our perspective, we live in this community. We're trying to manage access to your public lands and a resource, and we know this point. I mean, we know how valuable this is to you, so we're trying to find a middle ground between nothing here, something that makes law enforcement feel like they need to take action. We're trying to find a middle ground. So that's why we're here, because we want to move forward with something, and we don't know what that looks like.
Here.
But we do want to hear you, and we are right on board with you. We hear from people, we come out here all the time, just what a sacred, amazing place this is. But I also still hear from people in the community. I mean, literally, I had a phone call forwarded to me by DIS where someone was like, my friend was attacked there. Whoever took those out, they should have taken dynamite to it months ago. They should get a medal. So I got to kind of hear both sides of this, and I need to kind of find a middle ground. And that's why we're here, because we are the ones who manage the day-to-day operations and things like this. We are the ones who manage access, who manage the resources that are here so that you can take advantage of them. And so we're going to try to find a middle ground so that we can do that. Because we want you to have access to things that are on your public land.
We do appreciate that, but is it possible to have a meeting with you guys and the law enforcement side?
That's possible. I mean, remember, this is us getting feedback from you, and it's not going to die here. We're simply gathering your all comments and concerns.
We appreciate it.
Because I have a boss too, the board supervisor, and she's Teresa Benson, and she could say, I like what folks are saying, and I am requiring law enforcement and Hitch and I to be in the same room for anybody that wants questions. Linda.
Okay, so I don't want to discount the fact that this is a horrible atrocity in terms of the community, in terms of history, in terms of the Native American people that this is their home first. So I don't want to discount that, but I think at this point in time, you cannot unring the bell that has been rung. It is done, it is out, it is over, and we need to move forward. We need to come together with a committee that makes a smarter miracle. Okay, we need to build a smarter miracle. There's plenty of technology out there today where we can have trail cameras and hunting cameras hidden in the trees. We can have some kind of enforcement with the Angel group that possibly during the peak days and hours could have a special time where more than one person comes out. There's many opportunities. It's a matter of getting together and building a better mousetrap here.
Yes.
So, trying to vilify this department or that department, yeah, did the guy who went after this, did he do an unrighteous thing? Yes, but then from his perspective, no. Life is about perspective and what lenses are we looking out of? Through his lenses, this was a horrible, bad place. It was a plague on his heart because he constantly has to come out here and defend people and fix a problem. But yet, on the other hand, it's such as this. Thank you for your service, such as this gentleman. It's a necessity of life. And so, you know, we can all stand here and, you know, be on one side or the other, but at this point in time, the bell cannot be unrung. We need to band together and move forward and come up with agreements, have better signage that says, if anything happens here, please call the Miracle Angels. We will be here within 2 hours, or something to that effect. And have phone numbers, have a phone call tree where we can call one to the next to the next. Anyway, I'm.
Hip hip hooray!
Oh, sorry, I'm an organizer, so I thank you. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your voice.
What's your name,
Okay. Linda Halterman.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is there a process to sanction something like tubs, like whether something existing like Remington to protect them, or is there a process in place that we need to follow to rebuild these tubs and protect them from this happening again,
Yep.
to make them legal?
So there is a process.
Good question.
There's been like multiple things like that. Like if somebody does sleep over. So if somebody does sleep over, you're gonna have to have a licensed contractor come and build those tubs. The last engineer that came out, the flow rate was about 10 gallons per minute. So the only what the engineers found out is right now the tubs are too big. So if you're gonna rebuild them, you're gonna have to rebuild them according to the flow rate so that the water is being circulated efficiently. And then you also, county right now is like
I'm sorry, you're saying the tubs would have to be smaller, and why would that be?
because of the flow rate. Right now,
Well, why does that matter?
because the water is recycled efficiently.
Yeah,
You're saying there's some sort of standard for cycling
Yes.
gallons per hour?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that standard?
Yes.
For those of us who clean the hot tub, I think we know what that standard is.
Yeah,
we clean them.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
standard with chlorine
It's
too.
a standard.
There is a standard for chlorine. So,
We don't put
yeah.
chlorine.
Or salt.
Can I make an analogy
She
while
can't
people set
Google
up?
it.
So one of the things I've heard is, well, people die on the forest everywhere. You don't close pits. So one response that we would have to that is that when we manage a recreational opportunity, we have to do due diligence to meet what is public safety. So when you show up at a campground, you expect that the vault toilet is not going to collapse on you. You expect that the water that comes out of the spigot is safe. You expect a certain amount of safety. We don't manage the hot tubs. We can't guarantee someone's safety, but someone who comes here, they assume that that's an extension of this area. And so we're not doing our due diligence to make sure that people who go there are safe. And what does our due diligence look like in that? I mean, honestly, if you've ever been to a hotel jacuzzi, that's kind of what the state says due diligence is supposed to look like. The water that comes out of there is supposed to be filtered before it puts in the river. There has to be a certain amount of flow rate. You can only have so many bodies in it a day. There's just a lot of what we all know in a litigious society is bureaucracy.
I'll take the flow rate question afterwards. That's not something people care about.
So the other issue of, well, people die on the forest, other places you don't close it. And I mean, how do I make a close analogy to that? Yeah, if someone dies here and then someone dies there, I'm not going to shut the whole forest down. But if stuff keeps happening in one area, I'm now required to act on that. So if there's an overlook at the Grand Canyon where 20 people in 1 year fall over that overlook, I'm going to have to put a fence up there, kind of thing. And so this is why law enforcement feels strongly about this, is that it's not that there's a death here, there's a death there, there's a death on the lower river, there's a death on the upper river. It's that they keep having to come to one place to address health and safety issues. So they look at me and go, you're not managing this correctly, so we're going to manage it with the tools that we have in law enforcement.
Before I interrupted, you were talking about the path to rebuild, and you were talking about the engineering visit.
Yeah, so in 2002 we had the recreational engineers actually come out and review this place. And what they found was because the existing flow rate right now is 10 gallons per minute, that's a 30-minute flow rate for the 2 existing hot springs that are here. So what our engineer said was that in order to meet the Health and County code, the turnover rate that's currently, you could only do a bathtub that's 4x4 by 2.5 feet deep, or a circular tub with a diameter of 5.1 feet, and that's also 2.5 feet deep. And and to them it just didn't seem economically feasible if somebody was to come in. Like
So, well, here's the thing. So, I used to work for the engineering department for the county. Okay.
One question at a time.
I used to work with the engineering department for the county, M Street, in Bakersfield. So, yeah, but you're quoting county code, right? For your engineering specs. So here's the thing. So if we have to comply and have engineering specifications, we can do that. We can put together a committee, like Linda suggested.
Yeah.
And like I said, like you put together engineering specifications. So if there's a specific type of concrete that we need, we use that. If there's a flow rate that we need, we use that. You know, and then you rebuild it that way. So that's where we would go to for a permit, is to the county.
More or less, it depends if the county wants to take jurisdiction over the hot tub.
Well, the question is, I have a question, I'm going to butt in. The question is, if we go the legal route and we develop an organization, let's say a nonprofit, we have the people, we know that, the funding and the travel is all there. So people die and then things get managed. So let's just say we've cut that already, we got that requirement. We know there's engineering specs, we just need someone to pay for it. So what we're saying is, I think as a group is, if we put together an organization that's legally bound and right, would we have the support of the Forest Services to work together to be able to maintain this thing? Because there are people, I'm a veteran too, and I this is my man right here. This is literally what we're trying to fight for this world. So if we can come together. I made a company last week. I've just been waiting for a purpose, and we came here this weekend with this purpose. We are here to create something that's going to be forever, but we have to come together. Legally, we can do it based off what you just read. We can legally do it. So if we build a company, an organization, and everything's legal, and we have the buy-in from you guys, can we not fight everything else that comes with it? Because the community will keep itself clean. If someone comes, where's Primo? I don't know how many times I've walked in this place and he's telling people get the hell out because they have glass bottles, dropping them right there. We will police it up. We can make it legal, but if there's engineering specs and an organization is willing to manage it, then please let us do it.
Hip hip hooray! So let me respond to that because it seems like before and then, but I'm going to still do our little questions because there's a couple people that still have it. So like anything, whether it's a timber sale, whether it's anything on federal land, you have to do that thing called NEPA too. So National Environmental Protection Act gives you all a say of what happens on Forest Service land, and then a decision is made. So yes, indeed, there is a path, but I just want to say, and you can roll your eyes, anybody at the one, it takes a while. It takes a while.
This is how it works. So
Yes.
the thing is, we don't have to fight the system, you guys. We have to work our way into the system. It's not, I'm not even, you guys are my best friends. This is my wife, she's gonna be literally a forest ranger. So we're in this. We have the people, the backing, everything we need. It's just documentation.
Yeah.
Because it's insurance. The person who died, I'm so sad. But guess what covers that? Insurance, dude. You guys shouldn't be here taking the shit, but we can come together.
Yeah, agree. But this is what this discussion's all about. So I get to go backwards because you have such a good hat. Yours, question.
So, well, thank you for that. So you talked about flow rate and tub size and that kind of thing. Are you permitted to bring your own tub in there and fill with that water and sit it in it in your own gray water?
So that's where I hope to get to solutions. I hope to get to solutions of these ideas of what that looks like that works for the Forest Service, works for law enforcement, and works for you all. So put a pin on that.
Then I'm not endangering anybody else. I have my own tub, my own gray water.
Yeah.
So is that allowed, or do we not know that yet?
It could be allowed. It depends on, but that is a great idea, and I hadn't actually thought of that. So good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Darn it, yes, he said it and then Cindy.
Ah, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
When something is built on forestry land, normally if it's there for like a certain amount of time, it's grandfathered in, is it not?
No.
It is not.
Nope.
So it can be legally destroyed at
Yes.
any time?
Yeah, you can't do what's called eminent domain against the federal government.
Yeah.
So
Even though they are the ones that instituted something, you can't do something to it like that.
well, I was only asking because this spot has been here, what'd you say, the 30s?
Well, way before
82.
that.
Thousands
yeah,
of years.
way before
So
that.
dance
But as
hall's
far
in
as
the
my
30s though.
records that I've read, people were utilizing this.
I know it's been here since before then because this is where I come
Absolutely.
to pray and I can feel the ancestors here, but I'm talking like built for...
This is maybe a thing I have when it comes to that. Going on a limb here. So citing the native connections, citing the historical thing, it doesn't help the cause of what these tubs suggest here now. In fact, it hurts it, because I'm not going to speak for the people whose ancestors were here. But I'm going to guess that they might not like the fact that we're pouring concrete on a place that's sacred to them and decorating it with glass beads. So yes, this is a sacred place. Yes, this has history. That actually means there shouldn't probably be any building here. There shouldn't be anything but managed access. And so that's why moving to a permit system of having a concessionaire the same way that we do up on the ski resort can be very thorny, because we have to start bringing more people to the table. It's not just this group here, you and I. We now have to start bringing lots of people to the table who may have a different opinion than the group here. So then it becomes a lot more complex and a lot more tension in the system.
Okay, so I'm going to try to get questions. You first.
I respect and understand that the county health department has standards for hot tubs and things like that, and these are applied to basically commercial structures and so forth like that. And yeah, it's maybe we could go down that route, but here's the thing: there's a historical precedent. In the Forest Service, there are thousands of natural hot springs on forest land, BLM, government land, that people, the public, they go to, they improve, they utilize. They don't meet any of these standards. So to say, oh, well, these have to meet these, county health standards and everything, that's cherry picking.
Well, we're not saying they have to. We're saying if you're trying to operate a concessionaire business under a permit here, it will have to meet those standards. So what you said is true. These exist everywhere, and this was the situation we were in the past, is that they were here. And so what do I need to do about the fact that there's a resource here? Well, first, if there's something, I can't be liable. If I have to manage it, then it has to be managed like we're talking about. So the first thing we have to do is inform the public what are the safety risks of participating in hot springs culture without it being managed like a health spa resort. So we need to have signage for them so that they know that, so that they can make informed decisions.
Right.
The next step is a lot of the hot springs, in my understanding, are not so easily accessible, so they don't have a lot of problems there. Why we're here is that there were a lot of problems here, and that's what got us there. So this isn't an outlook that we want to apply to every hot spring, even on this forest. It's simply, what do we do here about an area that has a resource people want to access, and that there's vagrancy, there's drug use, there's been several deaths this year, there's been assaults. What do we do about that? Because I can't have people dying and being assaulted on my district. I can't let that happen.
And I appreciate that. I think it's becoming clear to me that the issues here are not the water quality standards in the pubs. It's the fact that this is a public management issue, because it is such a magnet, as you say, and I've witnessed it. I understand. I'm sympathetic, and thank you all so much for this outreach and cooperation with the community. I don't think we're going to basically solve so much with the going down the commercial turn this back into a commercial hot spring vendor thing, whatever like that, but I think we should focus on management of the humans.
Well, and that's what I start to talk to people about when they want to do the permit issue. They want to make this a concessionaire operated area. Does that route get you to a future that you think is what you want to see? So is having a concessionaire operating here, having a gate there, having, say, sparkly stainless steel tubs and white subway tile, having a fee that's $25 a visit, having a cap of 12 people a day, and then, you see this, like there are places where, say, a fancy glamping yurt, when you have only so many people that can go a day, capitalism says the price starts going up. So if by pursuing that route, are we then moving to a future where you've actually just priced yourself out of access to this, because it's now being run as a business, and it's now only a select group of people that get to go there.
Well, there was a vendor here in the past without stainless steel tubs and porcelain and all that. and they didn't necessarily, I don't know how it worked, like they didn't necessarily certify the health and safety of the water quality or anything like that. They just kept an eye on the place in terms of like managing the people.
Is this 370?
No. No, it was in the 90s when I first came here. There was a trailer here, and you came, you paid $5, and at 9 o'clock it closed, and they chased people out. And it was, you know, the tubs were basically the same. It's just that they had a gatekeeper to keep an eye on things, so you just couldn't come down there with a bunch of glass and, you know, create havoc. And but they didn't meet like county water standards and so forth like that. So that was a workable thing, and that worked really well for a long time. I think they just eventually gave it up because there wasn't enough money in it.
So there's a good statement. The past is a funny place where they did things differently. We operate very differently in 2020 than we did back in the day. I mean, we consider viewpoints that we used to not consider. We give people seats at the table who used to not be able to sit at the table. We worry about environmental factors in a way that we didn't worry about even 20 years ago. So the present is very different than the past, and so sometimes the past solutions are not going to be applicable right now.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. So, question.
Hi, I'm new here. I just moved here. I love it. I love the springs. I think they're precious and irreplaceable. And I'm hearing good things from your speakers here. I'm really feeling like there is a way forward. There's a way to navigate this. And I think we are not the only hot springs in the world that have had these issues. Maybe because the accessibility has gotten a lot more concentrated. But we have the angels. We have pieces of the pie that would restore this into a beautiful thing, but I think we need to look at doing a survey of all the different things that are out there and cherry pick the best ideas that really work for this area. And it is going to take time. And I think that there's a lot of anxiety and anger right now because of the lack of communication. But you guys have come forward and said, look, we're doing the best we can. It's not our call to do what happened. Thank you for that, because I think that clears the air. On the other hand, we've got a group of very passionate, dedicated volunteers that really want this to be healed. So I would like to be part of that. I'm an organizer too. I used to build community gardens in LA in some pretty rough areas. So I know there's a way forward, and a lot of that is getting the local community involved, people that really care. And those people are here, some of them. So I hope that will continue. And that we'll continue to have a seat at the table. That's really what I'm hoping to see happen.
Okay. New question or just?
Actually, it's a statement of facts. Maybe not exactly. I'm one of the Hot Springs Angels. Been working as a power sprayer. Me and my wife have been doing it since the beginning of time, before we even used the power sprayers. And you know, and when we first came here years ago, which is only about 6, there was no tubs. So we just had a little piece of plastic, and we gathered and had a cheek get cool water from the river and warm on the other. We'd switch. But what's happened here is, which is very, it's a sad situation that we have such amount of people as the COVID has brought into this environment, that the damages that have come across this environment, it needs a healing. Right now there's carvings and paint all over. The roads that we go back and forth to from our home is covered in this. I think there's been some effort to have that repaired, the graffiti. But the burn marks, they travel up and down the road now. But I talked to Michael Dodds. Michael Dodds, he's the boy that ran around here at 12 years old. And his mom and dad own the store up here, the resort. We spoke yesterday, and he gave me a lot of information, and he's willing to help. So he knows for a fact that in reality, it's going to take a gate guard. You know, somebody's going to, you know, he says you've got to have people more or less pay, or, you know, have, anyway, some sort of, you know, so it's not overcrowded. So, but right now we've got a lot of disrespect for this land. And people that have homes just over the side of these hills are in jeopardy to these forest little fires that these people are building when it says no fire. The glass, all these things that we teach. We get up there with our power sprayers. Some people help us. We have 200 and 36.
Actually, we have over 800 followers on our other
Okay,
page.
okay, let's just keep to the Hot Springs Angels page because that's what I'm part of. I'm not part of
Right.
the other group.
No, I'm talking about the Hot Springs
Okay,
Angels
so I
page.
want to stick to
The
our
private group is about
let me make it clear.
138.
Our group is the one that has a signed agreement with the forestry here. We go to these meetings, and we've attended all of them. And we have 11 agreements, guidelines that we follow. These guidelines we present to the people as we get here, so that when we see bottles, when we see, we go ahead and let them know about the parking and why. We have rafters, trailers, buses. So these things all have to be taken into consideration to be a part of this environment.
Yep.
Okay, so those concessions that exist through approval with the forestry are being gaggled up. When there's somebody parked or too many people parked in an area in which the truck or the bus and the trailer can't get down to pick up their customers, bring them back to their vehicles and their motel rooms. So, along with all the traffic, if you guys ever, watch the news or listen to the Kern River pages, the people that work are having a hard time getting back and forth because of the extra traffic. COVID, that's another reason, of course. But these hot springs I've counted 150 something people at a time in one day. It's just crazy. So we have guidelines, no more pools. Why? Well, I'll tell you what, me and my wife have to clean it. We don't want another pool. It takes us long. So with all the people that we have had, the 200 and something in our group, the ones that we work with, we don't have that many people at all helping us. We couldn't even get a second crew. We bought our own equipment. We bought brand new Husqvarnas, and we gave the other equipment to some Angels. Did we ever get, not one time did we get any help in them actually cleaning any of those tubs. So us as a group, we've been inadequate, period. There's no offense or buts about it. I know the clean that you've done with your crew that come in and pick up the trash has been a big help. But, the amount of fluid that you say exists needs to be really looked at too. Because there's more than just, I might be wrong, but I think there's more than 2 springs. I count about 4.
Yeah.
But it's just bubbling up, okay? It finds its weakest
Finds another spot sometimes.
So I'm kind of done, but I just want to let you guys all know that we've been dedicated for over 4 years. And we made sure we're here every 2 weeks to every 4 weeks to clean these tubs.
Thank you
And
for your
it
service.
takes, we were almost ready. We've been working on the house for months, all 8 months in Hesperia, and we still made it here. But we wanted to go ahead and finally get our group organized to where we'd have the gates shut, if we could, and all the plugs pulled. All the plugs put it back in the morning. They need to have a cleanse every single day, period.
There you go.
So we knew that. We just weren't able to put it together, and now they're busted. But at least we don't have to worry about our house being burned down because of the negligence of these people around here.
Yeah, you're right.
All right,
I
so
want to give him his due. I know he used the word inadequate. That's kind of a negative connotation. What you've enjoyed the last 6 years has been largely due to the efforts of these folks. Because I don't have the resources to give you what you want. If it wasn't for all their time, their money, their love, their passion for this place, the last 6 years wouldn't have been. We're here now because the demand on the resource, on the area, is more than these 2 groups, the Forest Service and the Hot Springs Angels, can do. So maybe this meeting gives us more resources. Maybe people get more involved. Maybe we find a different path forward. But I don't want to use the word inadequate because it's been over the top.
It's not inadequacy at all. You know why? It's all about money.
Yeah.
If money's funding you, we don't have every. At the end of the day, I don't want to bring it back to this because I hate money at all costs. That's why I'm moving to this mountain. Fund the Angels properly with a nonprofit.
Yep.
Have the forestry, which we all love you guys for everything you do, and put some money into it. And make it a disabled veteran spot. I don't care what we have to use. All the disabled veterans in this circle alone should be enough reason to make this a thing to keep alive.
There's just some, okay, let me explain it real clear. There's been some disagreement with internally our own members. And it's written in big letters, in caps, the last message that I've read about you need to get along. Y'all have to be on the same page. Our group has to be on the same page, and it hasn't been, I'm telling you. So it's our inadequacies.
Let's start anew right now, because this
We
circle
need
looks
a
like
new
the same
one.
page to me.
We have to be on the same page.
We are.
Okay, so I don't want to get into that. There are still a couple people that have questions. I mean, it is a topic that's worthwhile to share, but you know, a lot of people have been holding their questions. So, you, sir, did you have one?
What's your name?
Charlie Mazzy.
Charlie Massey. I'm Kevin Stratton. I grew up in the valley. And there's a lot of people here that grew up in the valley with me, and people that work for the Forest Service for years. You know, I admire so much what you guys done over the years. This is Colleen Dodge. This is my god sister. Colleen lived here when she was 2 days old. She lived here her whole life. Circle Hot Springs was a town to the post office.
Audie Murphy played with her when she was a little girl in that
She did.
video. That's really something.
And the world's tallest man. But the point is that we're all here to try and save this. We can place blame on you guys, and I know what you're going through with the conditions, societal conditions these days. There's no respect for the land. And it's not just about these tubs. It's about this place. This means so much to us. We came down here and cleaned up trash 3 or 4 years ago constantly, and we just gave up. Cutting down the green trees and breaking bottles, and somebody said it was heartbreaking. But it's not here, it's all the way up to the Peppermint. It's all the way up to the Sierras. It's everywhere you go. So, I talked to the Dodge family about this, and my idea is too. And people may not agree with me, and you got some great ideas, and Linda.
She went back to the car.
But the political channels, you could go to like Kevin McCarthy, and this place deserves this. Turn this into a state or town park. I don't know if the Forest Service or the government uses control. It used to be a 99-year lease, this whole area. But you can rebuild these tubs, and you can police them, leave your home and come up and police them, but there's so many people anymore that have disrespect. You guys are going to be back here in 5 years, going to butt the tubs out again. We're going to go through this over and over and over. This place deserves more than that. It deserves somebody to take charge like the county, the state, the feds, whoever, in concert and have a full-time person here and you pay. And you talk about people like, what's your name, sir? Willie. Willie, you know, you enjoy these tubs and use them for health reasons, but to give veterans, you know, you'd have to pay, have so many campsites, and you'd have to pay for so much time in the tub, like your concession, but more than concession because it's worth more than that. Not just a concession, but for people to enjoy this place and learn the history and to really get into it, enjoy these tubs and give veterans and people like that a discount. And not make it all about the money anymore, but just to make it break even so people can enjoy this place. And if you did that here in Miracle Hot Springs, pretty soon that idea would follow upriver into the High Sierra. Because places I used to go as a young man, camp out, they're closed down anymore because of the problems you guys have. And we're getting this blame game. Well, who's to blame? You know, and that's gets us nowhere. So anyway, my idea is that all these people here, if you got together and wrote a really good letter to Kevin McCarthy, he's probably a busy man right now. But Kevin knew Colleen's mother. And he used to come up here and like Merle Haggard and talk with his mother from Oklahoma. But Kevin familiar with this place. You could even tell him we could name the park after this. But it's an idea. If all these people got together and wrote this letter and got the politicians behind this, that's the only thing that's going to save it.
Cindy?
Well, I had one earlier, and I think we've already covered it all, but I'll say it real quickly. Usually when you disperse from something like this, people go on and they have these good ideas, they write it up on paper, the computers, whatever in their head, tell their neighbors, that it kind of dies out there. I know you don't want it to die out. I listened to you every word. I like what you said. But what I would task is that those who would like to see this continue, please do some homework. Like a gentleman said earlier, this is not the only place in the world that there's hot tubs and everybody's going to. I mean, we're crazy. This has been happened before. Go to somewhere, it's not hard with a computer now, find someone who's already invented the wheel that came from where we are right now.
Yep.
See what and make sure it's a federal, because we're dealing with federal right now. We're not jumping to county and state and everything. See where a federal issue has come up and been a good answer. Of course, not close them up, what you want. Somebody go and get those stories, do some homework, because they might come back and tell you, yeah, we blah, 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 we tried the blasting, we tried the this, we tried the that, and that went here, there, wherever. Everything everybody wants to do, put someone up there till 10 o'clock at night at the gate, well, we tried that. Get someone who's been there, done that, talk to them, introduce yourself, pick up the telephone. The people who don't want it, they should be doing the same thing, seeing where it didn't work, maybe if they want to see why. They would bring answers to the table why this can't be done. For the Forest Service, I would suggest that they also do their due diligence on homework and find a happy medium that it's worked there before. And we've done this before. We've gone to places, visited them and said, hey, we want to put this in process, and how are we going to make it happen? So that they know more and have some footsteps to follow other than just right here on the district. And you guys have actual stories of possibly successes. That's it.
I'm asking the group. I have some sage here that I grow, and I just feel I need to smudge the roof. And if there's anyone that doesn't feel comfortable with that, I'm okay with that. Is that okay?
Please do.
Please do.
Thank you.
That's another reason why we need to keep this place alive.
Don't we want it not overrun? Isn't that the message?
Good advice. Great. That's really good talk. So, so that was in response to discussing with the community, is that we hear that people do drive long distances. This was not something that was put out 2 weeks in advance, like, hey, 3 weeks from now, don't plan your weekend here. So because the action was taken and it was so close to the weekend, we did not want people to come here and have a negative experience on the district because they drove here and they were unaware of somewhere else. So we only did that for 1 weekend. We had signs here, and at the end of that weekend, we thought that that message on, I think it was Thursday or Friday, was enough for people to plan the following weekend. So just for that 1 weekend, we sent people there, but we also, because we didn't want to see the same problem repeat itself, we've also heard this, that people thought we were pushing people there so that we could find an excuse down there. No, when we did that, we added dumpsters, we added porta potties, we added a patrol that went through more often, because we've seen a lot more visitation there, but also a lot of the volunteers that used to come here went down there. So we feel like we've done a pretty good job to make
Hip,
sure
hip, hooray!
the problem didn't go from here to there. We're not pushing
appreciate
people
that.
down there anymore. That was just for that 1 weekend because I didn't want someone to come from LA, show up here, and then be like, well, what do I do now? Especially since there's another option happening out down there.
All right, Justin, we're working our way through.
I'm hearing a lot of really great ideas from the community, and a lot of people are really passionate about this, about the way they like to see this happen. But I'm curious about, because you guys have also had a lot of time to think about it, is there any creative ideas that have been kicked around the Forest Service that maybe we might want to like ponder on and add to? Is there anything that you might have that maybe we could build off?
Yes. So, and I'm being very cognizant of everybody's time. So let me pose an idea, because we've been at it now for an hour. What if, we finish off with some of the questions? I have a couple people I still want to talk to. What if we gather back together in a couple of weeks with a solutions discussion? That's just because this, what I wanted this one to be is maybe tamp down some rumors, get some question answered. But then the next meeting would be just solutions. Everybody has a chance to go home, sharpen their pencils, come up with some ideas, and then will that work?
Will you ask law enforcement to join?
Yeah, will law enforcement be there?
Remember Linda's point. Remember Linda's point about the past is the past.
Yes.
And if we're going to be continuing to point fingers, if law enforcement shows up, we're defeating the purpose of moving forward.
Just want cooperation.
Cooperation.
Okay, so that's fair enough. That's what I'm posing to you all, is that we have another, so we don't talk about solutions now, because, I don't mind, I'll stay out here as long as people want to stay, but I know that you all are busy. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, Justin, does that work for you and your question, that we don't answer it right now? Okay, Michael. We're almost there. We're almost to you. Michael, go.
The reason I came today is more of a general concern that every time there's a problem with a public land area, it's somehow shut down.
Yeah.
It's somehow gated. Big boulders are being placed across roads and access places. You can't go anymore.
Yeah.
I don't see that as being a management solution. Public land, you block them off because you may not have a budget, or somebody else may not, or law enforcement, how many ever guys there are, there's not many, can't be there. We're losing a lot of public land just because somebody can't manage it. And I'm getting very concerned about that.
How do we advocate for the forest?
Okay, so that's a good question. One of the question was, how do we advocate for the Forest Service? Because it's well known, our staff is keep shrinking. Now, if you're fire, that stays the same, but my other staff areas have shrunk. So we actually are starting to hire some people, first time in like 15 years.
So who do we write to, the federal government?
Well,
NISA?
so having a Speaker of the House is nice in our area. It's a very powerful position, and remember that House is the ones that write the checks for the federal government.
Mr. Person's office, with you guys was less engaged?
They did, but it was about the Sequoia Groves. Yeah, and the visitor center, but we're not going to get into that right now. Yes, go.
I've been using these tubs for over 50 years, and I've seen them blown up and rebuilt several times. I've helped rebuild them before. It's going to keep happening unless it's under a controlled environment. And none of us like to have all these controls on it, but we're too many people, so it has to happen. I drive a bus down here for rafting trips, and yes, there are hundreds of people here. There are fist fights and all kinds of things that people won't move their cars out of the way, the buses can't get in, lots of things happen. The problem is money, like it's been said, and if money doesn't come, these things can't happen. I know you guys are short-handed, the resources aren't there. We see people blocking the access, and rangers never show up. There's just not enough time, there's not enough rangers to cover the thousands of miles we have. And so it all takes people like us to vote, and vote for people who care about the environment, so that these things get brought up and taken care of in a reasonable way, not just blocking everybody out of using them.
We know there are cases where the Forest Service has turned over hot springs to state park, the Grover Hot Springs, and the Davis Stanislaw Forest, and that works very well. And it's a big developed place. It's not like coming out in nature sitting in the tubs, but there's too many people to do that anymore. So there are solutions that can be worked out between agencies and things, but it takes time and it takes money. And the money has to come from the federal government, and so people like us have to vote for the people who care about these things to be able to get those resources.
Okay, thank you. Hitch.
So, we have a forest closure order. We did talk with the Hot Springs Angels. They were supportive of getting pause here. It is not our intent to say close this for the next year. We're going to put a closure order in place. It's kind of an unofficial one right now. I've got all the paperwork signed. I hope I get that kind of going in the next week or two.
What does that mean? What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
So having a forest closure order means that no one's supposed to be here, no one's supposed to park along the road. If you park there, someone's allowed to come and go, you can't park here. As opposed to just saying you need to leave for the dash car.
You can be ticketed.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
So you can't be ticketed right now as we stand.
Excuse me.
We want to put a pause in. We want to get all these ideas. We kind of want to get plans forward. Talk to people we work with on this issue, and they were amenable to that. So that's why there's a forest closure order. Because it was we all thought it was beneficial to just hit pause and to maybe get the chatter down. Maybe if it was closed for a set amount of time, people who casually visit would stop visiting or go somewhere else.
It took 10 years last time.
Yeah.
Hey, that brought up some questions. Okay, you can wait. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Because I have to address the community as a whole. Because I don't live in this community. That was the first time that I visited the dog, and I thought, hey, I told Kevin I'm a climber. I thought, oh, I can climb, I can coast. And then the next day it was destroyed. There's been several lies by your local police department that are not accurate. One, you just said the body was soaking. The man was alive at 4:30, and I found him at 5. So basically, he was in there 30 minutes total in the water. So that's some vital information that you guys need to know as a community. That you should look at your authority figures here and see what's going on. Because I believe there's corruption. Because this is not just one. Right? He was misinformed. I'm not saying he did it, but he relayed information that was inaccurate.
And to caveat on that, the point is,
Inaccurate.
even if we close down today, you guys, financially, you're doing the same amount of work for the same amount of price, for the same amount, to come out and ticket people to get out is the same as ticketing people who robbed the car next to me last month when I was here. I carry weapons because if someone comes in my car, I'm gonna fuck them up.
Yeah.
But the point is, you guys don't have to come down when it's closed. Come down when it's open. That's the point. We want to deal with it. We don't have a problem with you guys. We don't need to be the problem. The hot springs don't need the problem. Money is the problem.
Money is the
Put
problem.
management in place. Wherever the money goes, it will happen. The money needs to go to you guys.
Yeah.
We should be an organization that's run and the money funnels in so that we can keep the schools safe and happy and healthy. And everybody from the time gets the fuck off the property. It has to be that way. It can't be us. It has to only be this. It is. It is. It is the money. If you guys, we're closed down right now, and every time I see you guys, I'll sit down here myself, and I'll check down every time I see a park ranger come down here and say, oh, money wasted, money wasted, money wasted, money wasted. It is the same. Your time is more valuable than that too. I assume it is. I assume.
Yes.
I just want to know what terms you have in what you just
Okay, so and I'll answer because that has been asked a number of times. Similar to what happened at Miracle, I cannot give you 100% ironclad assurance that won't happen. But what you can do is share with me, Pitch, and the forest supervisor, Teresa Benson, why Remington is important to you. why Miracle is important to you, you can share that. You can write us a letter and share that with us. You know, but at the same time, we both Hitch and I have a responsibility to work with law enforcement so that we have on the same page on how we need to move forward with management of areas. So I know that I'm not trying to dance around it, but I'm not going to tell you that that won't happen tomorrow. That law enforcement made a determination. Yeah, if you have a pen and paper, I'll be willing to give my email and phone number to anybody that wants it after this meeting. Do you have a question still? There you go. Okay. All right. Last question.
I just want to say, check out Hudson's Radio, the Green to the Forestry, and those kind of legalities to the tub so much.
No. Good. No, it doesn't.
That's money.
It's simply an agreement that says if you will do your part, we are giving you that ability to do that. I'm going to go when I'm done.
From eating grease suppositories and drinking liquor, no healthy diet, and it builds up like knots in my foot and stuff where I can't move. Like I barely touch it on my blanket. Like the sheet. It don't help Health prisons, bro. I gotta get it in the gallon with my pen, my rock, I gotta get it. They don't take it to jail, they don't take it to jail.
All right, George is an old man.
I know, right? Let's. Hey guys, come on, let's go.
Good luck on getting in the water, dude. It's 125.
Yeah, this would be really, really hot right now.
That's hot right there.
Yeah, buddy. I come up here and I stick my hand in there, and if I can hold it for a 3-second count, the earth isn't that hot today.
Yeah.
Usually I get it in there and boy, it comes right back out. It's like, yeah, okay, that's hot. There's been times though where I could just hold my hand right in there, no problem.
There was a time when the river was all the way up, and I built a tub over here, and I got to actually sit in the source.
Oh, really?
The river was, and you just feel the hot like come up your back.
See, that would be marvelous on my back, because that's what I like about these is the relief I get in my back and my neck.
What was that, like 4 or 5 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, used to be cabbage.
And that used to, the water used to be right up. See, we were over it.
I've seen the river over there.
Yeah, that first year we were
I've been up to the river all the way up to there.